Hi everyone, this is just going to be a quick clip in which I respond to the Week 2 assignment, which is based on Chapter 4 of our text. Remember that Chapter 4 outlined a number of ways that we can improve our communication, make it more effective, and make it stronger. We're going to look at 5 of those areas now. The first area asked us to be mindful that verbs are strong words because verbs show action in a sentence. Remember the definition of a sentence. There are 3 components in a sentence: a subject, a verb, and together the subject and verb express a complete idea or thought. The subject of a sentence is the who, the actor of the sentence. The what action, is the verb. So let's take a sentence like, Fred will make a decision. Fred will make a decision. What's the subject of that sentence? It's Fred. What's the verb? Fred will make a decision. Now, decision is a noun. It's a thing. How could we write that sentence so that it's stronger, showing action? We could take Fred will make a decision and simply rewrite it as Fred will decide. That's a straightforward sentence written in the active voice. Who will do what? Fred, our subject, will decide. So keep in mind that verbs show action, and when you want to emphasize an action being done, you want to use verbs to do so. The second thing we want to be aware of is that we don't want to confuse our readers with what we think are bigger or more fancy or more confusing words. When simpler or smaller words will suffice. So we had a sentence, an example: Joan's quotidian tasks are many. Joan's quotidian tasks are many. So you go to the dictionary and you look up quotidian. It starts with a Q. And you discover that it means daily. So we could say Joan's daily tasks are many. I want you to think of a thesaurus. We probably think of a thesaurus when we're writing something. We probably think of a thesaurus as a resource where we can go and look up a word that's maybe 1 syllable and in its place use a 6-syllable word. That way what we're working on might sound more intelligent or more academic or of a higher order. But that's not how we want to think of a thesaurus. Your thesaurus is a resource, but what you want to think about a thesaurus is that it's really a way to give variety to your messages. You may have had the experience, I certainly have, where I'm working on a document, and as I'm rereading and editing, I realize, I use this particular word 3 times. Is there a better word that I could use? Or a different word, not better, a different word. That's when a thesaurus, you have to learn how to say it first, that's when a thesaurus would come in handy. So again, think of your thesaurus as a resource for you to look up another way to say a particular word or thing. The third area, we want to be concrete. Concrete means specific, as opposed to vague or general. Now, is there ever a time we would want to be more vague or general? Yes, and we're going to talk about that in particular in future weeks, in particular when we get to the chapter 8 of our text on communicating negative messages. Let's look at the example we had. So here's a sentence that's written, it's rather weak. Let's meet somewhere early tomorrow to discuss our work. Let's meet somewhere early tomorrow to discuss our work. Okay, so what stands out there as vague or not concrete? Let's meet somewhere. Well, where is somewhere? Early tomorrow. Now, what is early? To you, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. To a colleague, it means 11:30 because that's when he or she might roll out of bed, right? So early is a vague term. And we would want to be careful how we would use a vague term like that. So let's meet somewhere early tomorrow to discuss our work. Well, what work? If you work in an organization, in a department, in an office, there are probably a lot of ongoing projects and tasks. So how could we make the sentence, let's meet somewhere early tomorrow to discuss our work, stronger? How about this? Let's meet at Starbucks on Foothill in Laverne at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning to discuss the presentation that is due on May 23rd. So let's try that again. Let's meet at Starbucks on Foothill at Laverne at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning to discuss the presentation that is due on May 23rd. That's concrete. It's specific in terms of place, time, and the task that we want to complete or work on together. So be concrete when possible, because that lends clarity to your sentences. Let's look at item 4. Prefer the active voice when composing sentences. However, not when you're composing negative or complex persuasive messages, which we'll talk about in future weeks. So the active voice tells us who did what, right? John wrote the memo. Who did what? John, our subject, wrote. That's the action. John wrote the memo. Let's take a look at the example we had. The contest was won by Jake. The contest was won by Jake. In that sentence, that's the passive voice. In that sentence, what's our subject? Who did what? The contest was won by Jake is written in the passive voice, and you can always spot a passive sentence by the word by. Something was done by someone. In this case, the contest was won by Jake. That's a weak sentence written in the passive voice. How could we make that a stronger sentence in the active voice? Who did what? Jake won the contest. Now keep in mind that there are times we would want to use the passive construction or the passive voice, in particular when we're delivering negative messages and we want to soften the blow of that message. And we'll talk about that when we get to week 6 of the course. Let's look at area 5 then, our last area. And this is something I stressed when I communicated with you last week. We want to emphasize positive words and positive ideas and not the negative. So we could take an example. We close at 6 o'clock tonight. We close at 6 o'clock tonight. Now, is that negative information or negative news? Well, if you have a client or a consumer who can't be there until 6 o'clock and you're closed, yeah, that's probably bad news. How could we stress the positive in that sentence? We close at 6 tonight. Well, what's the emphasis? What's the positive? What do we want to stress? We are open until 6 o'clock p.m. See the difference there? We close at 6 p.m. versus we are open until 6 p.m. So start thinking about how you're going to put and continue to put positive spin on your words and ideas. Okay, so that's what I have for you. I just wanted to touch base with you on these 5 areas. You will be responsible for this information on the midterm exam, which you'll take during week 5. The next time I communicate with you via video like this will be on, I want to discuss the guidelines of the final paper with you. You're in the discussion forum this week. I've seen some good responses there. I've also responded to some of your responses. But what I want to do is put together just about a 10-minute clip and hopefully clarify some areas of the final paper for you. And remember, in that paper, you're being asked to analyze a communication situation in your own professional environment that would benefit from a U viewpoint intervention or a U viewpoint approach. Okay, I'll see you all later. I hope you're making good progress on thinking about your papers, and I'll be in touch again shortly.